Welcome to the second live of It's Life. I'm so glad that you joined in today. Hit like, what is it? Like, share, and if you're on YouTube, subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. I have to get used to saying that, you know what I mean? But welcome to It's Life. So, the premise of It's Life is we want you to do four things. We want you to learn how to live out loud. We want you to learn how to inspire and be your best self. We want you to have fun because that's what we're going to be. That's what we're about anyway. We're having fun.
Have some fun.
We're going to have some fun. And we want to empower you on this journey called life. So the topic of this live is called I'm Overwhelmed and Feeling Burnt Out. I can pause right there and say amen because amen.
Because how many people feel overwhelmed and burnt out?
Yeah. I mean, I felt it, I felt it. And I thought about when I was thinking about having this live, I thought about the educators. I thought about the students. I just thought about how overwhelming. The reason why I really felt this because during the pandemic, I had the opportunity of doing virtual school with them.
Right.
Bless you, teachers.
A whole lot. Bless us. Yes.
Bless you, teachers.
And the families.
And the families. It was a
out.
Lot. It was a
Absolutely.
lot. And I was able to teach the kids meditation and mindfulness because thank God for that, for the school that thought enough of the students and the teachers to say, you know what, we need something for them because this is a lot. So I thought about that, and I was thinking back when we were coming up, right? So let me introduce you to my co-host here. This is my dear cousin, right? We go back.
Hey, y'all.
This is LaShonda Wooten, right? And I could tell you stories about.
Please don't.
And I won't do that. I won't do that.
Please
but
don't.
I love my dear cousin. And I thought about, when I wanted to do this, like who could I have here that would really be able to convey what teachers have experienced, right? And I thought about who could I invite on this show that could give testament and their perspective on what the students have experienced. And you'll see Ms. Vincent later. She's a mental health professional that's in the school. And also, I wanted to get the perspective of parents.
Absolutely.
And how because their life was turned upside down. Then we have grandparents who are taking care of these children and the whole village of trying to navigate through this evolving, something that we were all forced to do and how we're actually maintaining it. So we're going to have a whole packed show here today, just having a conversation about this thing that changed us, that rocked us. And I was thinking back when we were young. Kenny, can you show, you can show the first picture of, she was my maid of honor in my wedding. So there we go. Look at us. All thin and trim. We got that. Look at us. Had no clue what was happening. But here we are today. Look at us today. Right? But I was thinking about when we were young, right? And when we were going to Vacation Bible School and Gwyneth Rae, I was thinking about her and how we had a village of teachers around us, right? They were instilling us, the morals, education, the points of education, respect, studying, all of that. Like we had all of that. And how things were just so different. The reverence of education, the reverence of our teachers, like
But
they were
we
next to
had
God.
a community. So
we had a
community of leaders that were willing to guide us and direct us.
Right. They were like next to. We looked at God. It was preachers and it was teachers.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I was just thinking back to like the classroom that I was in and the teachers that really helped shape some things for me. And I was thinking about Miss Nance. You know, it's Miss Haas now, you know, but it was Miss Nance. Hey, Miss Nance. She couldn't be here
one
today.
of my number one teachers.
Mine too. And how her presence in the room and how she cared for us.
Absolutely.
You know, we just
nothing but love.
Nothing but love. And we wanted to do everything for her and how in tune of her students that she was to us.
So if we go back to Miss Nance, Miss Hobbs, Reverend Hobbs, she had high standards for us.
Right.
High standards. You walked into the classroom. She was always dressed professional. She cared about us. She let us know when we were wrong, when we were right. She taught us to be entrepreneurs. What are you doing today? Entrepreneurship, right?
Right.
She taught us how to look at poetry in a different way, right? And to put ourselves into that poetry. Yeah. But more than anything, not just the teachers, but the entire staff.
Yeah.
How we have to make sure that we're together and supporting each other, how the parents and the families have to come together, the community has to come together, because our young people need us. Yeah. And in order for them to aspire to be their best and do their best, we have to step.
So where did that? I never asked you before, but what made you become a teacher? Like,
okay. So you want to be honest?
I thought about that because Temple Light here. You know, she graduated from Temple.
TU,
right? TU. So I was like, what made you? What was that job that made you want to be a teacher?
So let me give you all some background knowledge. Again, my name is Rasheena Vincent. I have been teaching for 22 years.
Woo!
Yes, 22 years elementary school. I have my master's. I'm dual certified, special education. I have several certificates to enhance myself. I didn't want to be a teacher. So I always wanted to work in the community. And my main goal when I graduated from Temple, before I went to get my master's from St. Jules, I wanted to make money. I was thinking about the bag like all these other youth are thinking. I got to get the bag. I want to get the money.
I mean, well, where we were from, we had to figure out a way to get out.
Yes. So we hailed from Chester, Pennsylvania, right? And
see you.
Hey, and we wanted to aspire to do big things, but my focus was money. But God kept saying, but I want you to work with kids. Yeah. So every time I tried to step away, I was like a youth director. I worked in the church, worked with the choirs, praise dance. I did all kinds of stuff with youth. And I worked at Vanguard. I worked at a few places. Yeah. And he just kept bringing me back to education. No matter what I did, I was always surrounded by youth and children. And then finally I said, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to get another degree, my master's degree in education, because education was my minor. Yeah. I minored in education and economics. Mm-hmm. So it's just my calling, I would say.
So before we go into bring one of the parents on, so let's go back. Mm-hmm. Maybe let's go back 10 years. I don't even go back 20, but 10 years. What did the classroom look like for you at that time, like 10 years ago?
So I would say 10 years ago was probably a little bit different. Now, if you want to go 20 years ago, we can do that also. So 20 years ago probably is like when I first started in education. Mm. It was very different. So you still had a lot
and you were different.
I was different.
You were different.
I was a novice then. Yeah. So I took whatever I could take from teachers that had been in the classroom for a really long time. Mm-hmm. And I had a mentor, Mrs. Locklear. I call her my Italian mother. Mrs. Locklear, I love you. Aww. I hope that you're doing great things. She's retired now. But I was under her wing, and she taught me so much as a second grade teacher. And I looked at how she interacted with the kids. I looked at how she communicated with the parents. And I looked at how she had such high standards. And I said, I aspire to be like you, because I knew more than anything, she had a love for those children. And actually it was first grade. She taught first grade on. So I wanted to kind of take a little bit from her and also put a little bit of me in it. Yeah. I would say I'm not
a lot of you.
A lot of you. I'm not a traditional teacher. No. And you'll see that from one of the parents coming on.
She's not. I wish I had one of those clips. This one right here. She goes all out for those students. I'm serious. Like anything. This one right here, she dresses up. She just loves the kids, and they need that, that was, I should have got that clip.
You have to, but I think for education, you have to make it fun.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, students are sitting in their seats all day long, and it's not fun.
Yeah.
And people aren't making those connections. So we have to make sure we're making those connections. We find out what they like. You inspire them and you respect them. Because students know if you care for them, they know if you're respecting them, and they know if you're bluffing, right?
So, okay. So let's fast forward to 10 years. You did 20, so 10. Fast
10
forward
years.
How were you at 10 years?
At 10 years, I would say for any educator, you don't really get comfortable until after the 5-year mark. You have a lot of hurdles that you have to overcome and obstacles you have to overcome. So at my 10-year mark, I knew who I was. I knew how I wanted to teach. I knew that I wanted to follow the curriculum, but I knew that I wanted to put a little bit of pizzazz into it.
And you put a lot of pizzazz.
I'm very strict. I'm very old school, like some of the teachers we had, Mrs. Hobbs, Ms. Fontaine, our librarian. I'm very strict, but I'm very caring and loving. So our teachers made us kind of like sit a little bit more. You had to listen to whatever they said. I'm not like that as much. Our kids need movement, right? Whether it's yoga, whether it's meditation, whether it's something inspiring. I incorporate a lot of that into my teaching.
All right. So COVID
hit.
Yup. How are you doing that?
COVID, and it continues to be because the most difficult time.
Right. And we talked about that. Yeah. And I saw how overwhelming it was for you. Because at that time, it was adjusting to, you had to be able to be tech savvy.
Absolutely.
You had to do more of the lesson plans. You had to be in tune with the students. You had to be engaging with them
for hours.
You had to do new lesson plan. Yes. It was like a lot.
Yes. So it still is a lot. So when you think about our students, and I don't want to just put it on the teachers and the staff, because if I could say anything, thank you so much to the families that were so supportive while we were on Zoom. They were supportive, but most days were 10 to 12-hour days. So parents, they may have said, oh, you guys are only on for 3 or 4 hours, but the preparation for your slideshows, looking through everything, trying to make sure that the kids weren't falling asleep, trying to make sure that they had Wi-Fi access. It was just a lot to make sure that we had to get through.
So I read an article, right? And there was an article about burnt out, teachers being burnt out. And this article was saying burnt out tells the wrong story about the kinds of pain. And that's where I was. I'm like, these teachers are really burnt out. But it told a different story for the teachers, because what it's saying was the pain the educators are experiencing, because it suggested the problem lies within the individual teachers themselves, and it didn't. It created a new area for you. So it kind of, what it's saying, that this article was saying, that it demoralized the teacher. So you had to step into a whole another realm. You were losing students to gun violence. You were losing, there were kids that were suffering through depression. There were teachers suffering through depression. Still.
Talk about equity.
Yeah.
You want to talk about equity, because when you're talking about some schools and some families have Wi-Fi and have access to computers, and some don't. So what do you do? So you're talking about your lower performing students who didn't have accessibility to those things, right? So what happens to those students? Instead of them going higher up, they get lower because they don't have access. So we're talking about equitability for those families. And a lot of things weren't equitable. So a lot of us suffered through those.
And I mean, and if you really think about it, and Ms. Vincent and I was talking about this too, that a lot of the students, they have physically grown, but mentally they're still 2 years ago.
But you're talking about their social emotional. So
social
physically,
emotional,
yes, they've grown and they're a little bit taller. They may weigh a little bit more, but socially, emotionally, I can't interact with the child on a computer. Right? And then we're asking them to do things that developmentally they weren't ready. They're typing things in, so it affected their writing. So all around it affected students, families, staff, administrators. it impacts us a great deal.
Yeah.
In a negative aspect.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that until I was able to witness it for myself and able to see when I was with those kids for 30 minutes, they were logged on and prepared just to learn how to breathe differently, like a different technique on how to relax or how to calm themselves, because it was a lot going on. So the school was their safe haven for some of them. And it was like, and then some of the teachers, that was their break because it was considered to be a special, but they would come in because they were like, I need this for myself.
So think about school. School provides a safe haven. You get breakfast, you get lunch, you get snacks, you have heat, you have air conditioning. Some of our families had that. Some of our families didn't. And sometimes people didn't consider that. As educators, thank goodness we were able to get paid every single time we were supposed to. But some of our families experienced, guess what? Unemployment. So that was a big concern for some people at our school, like the secretary and I and a few other people and counselors made sure that we provided different gift cards and care packages for them, because they were actually going through it. And some people are still, right now, it's the aftermath of COVID.
And before we go to we had a village. We had a strong village. And we had people that felt accountable for us. Like if they were adults, and you have the other picture, Kenny.
Oh, well, I don't know, Kenny. Where are these pictures?
Where's the other picture, Kenny?
Because she didn't tell me about these pictures.
I didn't. But we right there. That's where it all started.
Oh, my grandma's
house. Yep. That's where it started at her house.
I miss her so much. Hi, Mom.
We were there. We did our thing, but we had older aunts that were accountable for us. Anytime they did something, they made sure they came to us. Remember that? They came to us and was like, listen, this is what we did, but we're telling you that you don't have to do this.
Yes, that was my grandma Barbara.
Yeah, we miss her. We love her.
Yeah. So we have to begin to hold each other accountable again, but we also have to be supportive of each other.
Yeah. And speaking of that, so we have some parents that are here with us too, to give us their perspective on, how they're dealing with things and handling raising children in this time. That's, it just shook us. It just shook our world upside down, and we had to really figure things out. And sometimes we figured them out on our own, and we're still figuring things out. So Sean, you want to introduce?
Sure. So the first parent that we're going to have, I've had the pleasure of having Mrs. Dawn Johnson Lee a part of my family for 2 years. I have her grandson, the infamous DJ Donovan, in our class. So she's going to talk to you about how she was able to get through COVID, the parental support that she provided, because her and a few other, hey Janine, if she's watching, they were my aces. I had a few parents that were definitely the aces in the classroom that helped all the time we were on Zoom. We went to breakout rooms. She would say, I'm going to help. Janine would say she was going to help. Darrell's mom would say she's going to help. So she's going to talk from a parental aspect of it.
Hello. We can't hear you, Miss Johnson.
Sorry, I had you on mute. I had a carload of kids.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. And you heard, what we were talking about. The times have changed, and now we have a lot of grandparents stepping in and being a part of that village. And you done raised your children, right?
Yes.
Now they're starting all over again with different technology and all of this stuff. So tell us a little bit about, how you're actually making through.
So hold on, before you tell us that, tell us why you're driving. What did you just finish doing with some of the children?
Okay, so DJ, Jamir, Darrell, and Chase, I call them the Four Horsemen. They've all been together for the last 2 years. We were fortunate enough to get Miss Wooten again this year. So they are my Four Horsemen. We actually just came back from the movies. We practiced for the talent show, and then I took them all to the movies.
Because you guys prayed so hard for me being, I was a second grade teacher, now I'm a third grade teacher. Okay,
that is correct. That is correct.
All right. Well, let's Ms. Johnson. How are you? Woo! How did you become a part?
You know what? Miss Wooten says the same thing because I think she kind of gets upset. I'm one of those people, if I do for one, I do for all. And anyone who knows me knows I'm all about the kids. I'm going to help those kids out in any way that I can. Because I know that these 4 boys are so close in school, I try to do things with them because at one time I worked overnight. So during school, when they were virtual, I would come in from work. I would get Donovan dressed for school, DJ. I would get him dressed for school, and I would actually sit. And as soon as I heard Miss Wooten say, well, we're going to go in breakout rooms, I'd always let her know first thing in the morning, I'm here. If you need me, just holler. I'm sitting in the living room. I can hear everything that's going on. I can see everything that's going on. So anything I could do to help those little people out, I'm there.
Okay. So we also have Miss Moore, who's also a parent as well. She just joined in. Come on, Miss Moore. We're going to get her perspective on it as well. Because we want to know what did you notice about the children once they were home because of COVID? Like, what did you notice? And what did you have to do differently? And how did you cope during that time? You, Miss Johnson.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was a big change. Like I said, during that time, I worked overnight. So I was coming in from work and I would be dead dog tired. But because I knew, that the kids were in school and they needed the help, I made sure that I got myself together. Yeah. I made sure that Deej was on when he was supposed to be on. If he needed help with something, I would help him in any way that I could. Yeah. And by the time I got ready to go to bed, it was 2, maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I had to get right back up at 7 to be back into work. Yeah. But again, because it was for the kids, I was willing to take all of that.
And that's a great point too, because you said because of the kids, you were willing to do all of that. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of parents or guardians and caretakers that were not there. So like they were like, I don't know, do you log on? You figure it out, and they were to their own devices at that time. And that was frustrating for them because they didn't have that interaction with the teacher. Like if I have a question, a lot of them, never ask the question because of the type of environment that they were in. So I think what you were talking about too, that family involvement was a crucial piece that I found that was a little difficult for our kids, and they just suffered a lot because of that.
But one thing that we did is like for our community, the technology or devices, I would say, come on to Zoom, and I'll show you how to work out some questions that you have in order for us not to be frustrated. Okay. So I think that helps them a little bit when we get those little small sessions. Oh, and so talk about DJ a little bit academically before we move on. So what reading level is DJ on the 3rd grade?
Come on and brag. Come on.
He's just about on a 6th grade reading level.
All right. Okay.
Congratulations, DJ.
Went from like a 4 there to like a 5.9, and last year was a 2 something.
That's amazing.
Yes. But you know what? I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I cannot take all the credit because this little boy has a kingdom. They say most families have a village. He has a kingdom, and my sister is the director of her child care center. My son he was the aquatics director at the Y. So, his godfather, his uncles, like this kid has a kingdom. So I thank the Lord didn't have to try to do this all by myself. I had a lot of help, and I want to make sure that they get the credit for that help.
Good. Yes. So we have Miss Moore who joined us. Thank you, Miss Johnson. Hey, Miss Moore, how are you?
Hi, I'm well. Good evening, everyone.
Hi, thank you for joining us. We were just talking about um you have a dual role, right? So you're a
Yes.
teacher, also a parent. So I want to get your perspective of um how being a parent and having a child during this time, how it's different and how you had to adjust, and the things that you noticed during that time when your child was home, and the things that you experienced during that time. So just
So
perspective on it.
even though I'm a teacher, I'm secondary um, experience with children, not so of the early childhood. And my patience wasn't there. And I think being a teacher and teaching your own child is a lot different than teaching other people's children. Um,
Yeah.
I, you know, in during COVID, my son was used to going out every day, going to, he was at a home based daycare, interacting with other children to when COVID hits and everything shut down. He's like, I know I love my mama, I know being with her, but this is real different. I'm with her every single day. What is going on? And really just making sure that, especially with a younger child, um, structure is key to their discipline and to their everyday need. So I had to figure out working from home, having a balanced schedule to making sure that my child, who was at the early stage of, learning development, that he was still getting what he needed. And I didn't even know. So I was, researching different things, Amazoning every book and workbook, and just Googling different things like what do my child need to know going in kindergarten, because I didn't know that stage of education. Um, so just asking his daycare provider things that we should do. She gave me some good YouTube videos. This generation is all about YouTube videos and TikToks and hokey pokey and everything else. So I had to get accustomed to those things and really building out a schedule. Then I started virtually teaching, and we were still at home. And it still again goes to that balance of being a working mother and still being there to provide for your child, because he was still sitting there like, okay, you're giving attention to your job, I want attention too, and learning how to adjust with that too. So I mean, these children have been just like we have whiplashes as adults from dealing with COVID. The children does too, and it really takes patience and an open mind to understand these dynamics. Even folding into the classroom, these students have been out of social contact with one another for 2 years.
Yeah.
I was talking to his kindergarten teacher, and she's like, a lot of them don't understand facial expressions because for the last 2 years
Right.
of early cognitive stage, they didn't understand facial expressions. And I'm like, oh my God, that's
Yeah.
mind boggling.
But
You
see,
know,
that just goes to show exactly that what we experienced as adults as far as COVID, we were able to express that. We were able to verbally say, this is much. But we didn't extend the same grace to kids because they weren't able to articulate what they were feeling, how emotionally this was. There were people that they experienced the level of death that they were exposed to during this time, the isolation, the being a tech person, they had to be able to get on and log on and being virtually and away from their friends and all of that right there was traumatic for me. And what do you think it caused the children, right, that can't really express what it is? So I think Miss Vincent is here. Thank you, ladies, for that. Miss Vincent is here, and she's going to talk about recognizing some signs and of trauma. There are some things that if we're not in tune to our child, it's like you're not going to know what is going on with Johnny. Johnny may be beating the other kids up, and you're like, you don't know what that is. Oh, Johnny's just bad, so we're just labeling him as being bad, but not recognizing
that is trauma.
That is trauma,
because a lot of them have been resilient.
Yeah,
everything that we want.
Right, it's right, but having that moment to say, recognizing if there's some symptoms or some things that the child. This is Mental Health Awareness Month as well, guys. So I'm gonna sneak that in there. While we're getting Miss Vincent on. Hey, Miss Vincent.
Hey.
There's going to be some information scrolling on the screen because this is Mental Health Awareness Month. I want to make sure that this is exactly why I'm doing this, and this for you. There are some people who don't have access to healthcare or, actually ever seen a therapist before, but I want to let you know that, it's here for you, and there are agencies that are available to you. There's you're not alone, and I don't want you to think you're alone.
Don't worry, fearful. Don't worry about the stigma in our community.
That's a huge thing. Seek help. There's help out there for you. And what I'm going to do, and I did this the last one too, that the first 3 people that email me at mindbodyandsoulllc.de@gmail.com. The first people that email me, I'm going to offer you a therapy session. There's a lot of people that haven't experienced that before. They know exactly what it is, so they won't be afraid of it. So this is exactly why I'm doing this for you. So there's also Embracing Oak, and I believe that's down there. That's going to be on there as well. There's Your Center LLC, and these are right here in Delaware. And there's also, I think those are the 3 that I put down there. So he's going to run that information down there. Okay, so we have Ms. Vincent here. She is from Social Work Solutions LLC. She's become, my person. I ain't gonna tell her. I should have said that to her, but she has become my person, and I kind of push her to do some things. So, we're all stepping out of our comfort zone here.
Yes, we are, because you got me on video.
Everybody's gonna do it. Everybody's stepping out.
Yes, we are. Thank you for having me. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I'm so glad that you're here. I think this is such a needed conversation that we're having. Just that there are so many people that have experienced exactly what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
And I did that. I experienced that, but never really had the conversation with one.
And it's okay to talk about it.
Yeah, it's good.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. Yeah.
Open up to someone such as yourself, right?
Yep, absolutely. And I also think that even with the teachers, especially, the teachers now post-pandemic, also, before the pandemic, but now they're dealing with not only the traumas from within the community and their own traumas from the pandemic, but also the traumas that the kids are bringing into the school and the kids have experienced. And I think a lot of times as adults, we don't really think about what the kids are really going through and how they are watching us and what they're responding to.
Yeah. And so Ms. Vincent, also tell us exactly as a profession, what do you do? You're in the school system. What is your title in the school system? What do you do?
Okay. So I am a school social worker. And in the school, I oversee the pantry, mental health services, for kids. I also do individual and group therapy with the kids. I also do, what I would say, consultation work with outside agencies as well as teachers. I am a resource for teachers and staff in the building. We have a great team that we all kind of work together with. And so in our school, I'm very, very grateful and blessed that we have, it's not just me, because as you know, there is a lot that we are dealing with in the school system. And I don't mean the school system, just the academics. I'm talking about just a lot of the trauma from the community, from the pandemic, and
Right.
from a lot of the things that our parents and families are going through.
Yeah. So also, you also do professional development as
Yes,
well.
yes, yes, I do.
A little bit.
So with the professional development, that is where I try to do my best to educate teachers on trauma, trauma-informed care, strategies that they can use in the classroom. You have my colleague that was on a little earlier, Miss Moore. We work very, very closely together. And so I do the professional development around mental health needs when it comes to the school. Because as we know, the academic piece as well as the behavioral piece, it has to come together. You can't have one without the other because the trauma that our kids are experiencing, as well as our families, because it's affecting our kids and into the school system. We have to make sure that we are addressing it on like a multi-systemic level so that it's in order to address the trauma that our kids are experiencing, that will help them be able to be more prepared when it comes to academics and what they have to do when it comes to their work and being focused and able to concentrate.
Yeah.
So can I ask you a question? Because we
Of
have
course.
knowledge in regards to trauma. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what trauma that you're talking about for the audience? So they can know exactly what you're talking about, because we have something called ACEs. And even that affects so many communities, but a lot of people, especially our families and parents, they don't know about that. Yeah. So we have the background knowledge, but elaborate just a little bit more.
Okay. So the ACEs is a study that was done years ago, and it was done, and we've actually done one in the school that I am currently at now, just to see how much trauma we had, and also we did it so that we can make sure that we have the right resources for our students. So the ACEs is a trauma study that was done years ago, and what it does, it tells us, it's questions. So the questions go through whether a student has been exposed to physical abuse or um, substance abuse, if a parent has been incarcerated, has there been divorce within the family unit. That can be traumatic to a student as well. Um, some of the other questions are if there are any kind of alcohol abuse, any kind of mental and emotional abuse. They're usually centered around the mental and emotional abuse within the home. And so there are a number of questions. So we did it with grades from 3 to 8. And what we found that a lot of our students in 2018, it was right before the pandemic, and we're going to do it again. But what we found was the majority of our students are 3 plus. That means they scored 3 or more in a category, and that means that you would have to. So that affects your emotional, it affects your the mental, it affects your health as well. And so it is a tool, like a data tool that we can use to determine what a student needs and where they fall, how much trauma they are experiencing, because that trauma affects them emotionally, mentally, as well as academically and behaviorally.
Yeah, you have some more information that you have prepared for us.
Yeah.
Kenny, can you get that? I think Kenny has that.
Okay. So this just talks about what some of the trauma facts are. And
that first one, it's like 1 out of every 4 children experience or exposed to trauma.
Mm-hmm.
That
so it affects their performance in school. It affects their performance overall.
Yeah. So and
that's
in the inner city, it's higher.
Yeah.
It is definitely higher in the inner city.
Yeah.
And it can go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah.
And what I really want to point out is that it usually is manifested, especially when it comes to kids. It usually is manifested in their behaviors, their attitude, their emotional responses to things. And a lot of times, and this is what contributes to a teacher experiencing more trauma and increased burnout throughout the school year. Because, like I said, there's something called vicarious trauma, which the teachers are experiencing. So if you have a school that has a number of children who are experiencing chronic trauma, that teacher can be affected by the amount of trauma that they're also dealing with. Somebody that may not have had any traumatic experiences is also affected. So I do want to point out when the part where it says thinking others are violating their personal space or blowing up, and we may think something is really small, but to a student who's experienced trauma, and I've had students who have seen shootings and violence within their communities, and I think a lot of times we don't understand that they don't know how to turn that off.
Right.
You know, right?
Right.
They don't just, when they come in, they're still on guard. You know, they're still keeping up their defenses. So I think a lot of times for the school staff as well as the teachers, we have to create a space that allows them to feel comfort. And I believe your cousin she mentioned this earlier, just creating that space where it's trauma informed, where they can come in and they can feel accepted, they can feel appreciated. And that also helps with the teacher, you know, experiencing less vicarious trauma from, you know, her students or his students.
Yeah, it does.
You can go to the next one?
The next one, yes, you can go to the next one. So these are just the different types of trauma. The ones that I have the asterisks by are all of the they are all of the situations that I have dealt with the children that I currently work with now. And that's inside the school as well as outside the school. So everything that has an asterisk is what we're seeing in the Wilmington community when it comes to our children experiencing trauma. And that trauma, like I said, crosses over to the teacher, and that's what creates the burnout very quickly.
Yeah. And when those students come in with all of this happening and not knowing exactly how to understand, to express their thoughts and their feelings, and they're coming into school with all of these things happening, multiple things at one time that they experience, they're coming in the classroom.
Right.
Their behavior is off the chain. Yes. And if Miss Johnson, you know, or Miss Sue is not, you know, in tune with that, then that's when the labeling comes in. And that's
absolutely,
you know, that's where the disconnect is.
Absolutely.
Because Miss Sue is dealing with her stuff.
Absolutely.
And Johnny to come in there and just sit down and do what he needs to do.
Well, it's also it's coping mechanisms, and some staff are not even trained to deal with
absolutely
childhood experiences, right?
Right.
So when children come in and they're dealing with these things, and sometimes as staff we're not aware that they may saw abuse, or they may have seen someone get shot, or they had a loss.
Some of them are.
Yes.
They are aware.
Some of them are aware, some of them aren't. But
she's right. Some of them aren't.
Yeah. So if you have a teacher who their ACEs, their adverse childhood experiences was a 1, but you already have a kindergarten student there are 3. How are you dealing with that? It's hard to deal with that because you've never dealt with those things, right? So as a staff, I have to learn and be trained on how do I interact with that child. So, and another thing for ACEs, like if they have a higher ACEs, they have a lower expectancy of life.
Yes.
So we begin to show our communities how do we deal with those things, and that's where you guys come in by talking about your trauma, writing trauma down, but dealing with it and coping with it, not keeping it all bottled up, because we have adults that can't deal with these things. They've never been taught how do I cope with it.
Okay, Miss Vincent.
And she,
Miss Vincent, you got something else? Because we can stay there all day.
Oh no! I was going to say she's absolutely correct. And when you have the trauma, and I was also going to point out that a lot of these experiences that I have on this slide, teachers have also experienced them as well.
Absolutely.
So it's not just for the students; the teachers have also experienced them.
Yeah, you're right. Next one.
Go to the next one.
This is so good.
Yeah.
Good.
And we can go to the next one, Kenny.
Kenny, you with us, Kenny? There you go.
There we go. So this just talks about a lot of the impact that we're seeing when it comes to the children who are experiencing trauma as well. And even though it says middle school students, it overlaps when it comes to middle school students, sometimes when it comes to young adults, high school students as well. There's a lot of anxiety and fear, a lot of the hyper arousalness when it comes to just taking something that may seem small to us, like I said before, but it's something big to them, and they're responding off of that emotion, that fight or flight type of response.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one, Ken, if you can. All right. So, what can we do to help a traumatized child? But I also want to make sure we all kind of keep in mind what can we do to also help the staff.
Yeah.
Because that really is important, because the way I look at it is though these are the adults that are in the building, right? And it takes a village. I think one of your parents said, what did she say? It takes more than a village. It's like a whole
kingdom. She got a kingdom.
Yeah, kingdom, right? So the kingdom, look at it this
kingdom.
The kingdom is the school. And so we have to be able to come together. And that's where I think the professional development comes in as well. The school has to have the mindset shift that this is important, right? And that trauma is important. And I believe in 2018, the governor has made it mandatory for us to have MTSS, which is also the multi-tiered system of support where the academics and the behavior come together, and we're addressing that simultaneously. We're addressing it together.
Yeah. So also, just to let you guys know, Miss Vincent information is on the bottom of the screen. She actually has a wonderful presentation that she will send to the school, and she does this type of seminar classes to teach this to the teachers at different schools. So if you have a school out there that's looking
professional development,
professional development, she's great. This is what she loves to do.
I love it.
She loves to do it because yesterday we did a Zoom and she did a whole presentation just for me, and I had to say, "Hey, Rasheena, I said it's tomorrow."
She's passionate.
I said it's tomorrow.
I was getting so excited, and I'm going all through, and she's like, "It's tomorrow."
Save it for tomorrow.
That's awesome. And you know what? Is so even in community centers, because we keep talking about the schools and the school body, right? Yeah. But I think if we branch out a little bit more and we widen our horizons for our kingdom, we have to take it into centers, because if we're training them at school, we have to train them at home.
Absolutely.
So that how to deal with the trauma, how to deal with their trauma. Because guess what happens? Each year we do it all over again. Yeah. Because we're training our families. So we have to make something different. Yeah. It's deeply rooted. Yeah. So you're talking about generations. It's generational of trauma.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. It's absolutely. You're absolutely correct. And I think it's important for us to partner. Like partner in the school, partnering with parents, and making sure that we continue to open those lines of communication. It is extremely important.
It's vital. I mean, it's like a student cannot be truly successful without having all that kingdom. Yeah. Like the parent needs to be involved, the teacher tune and train. Counselors, everybody has to be in tune, because a lot of our children just really suffered.
Yeah.
They really suffered through that. So thank you so much. So now come to the is there any questions out there, Kenny? I didn't do that last time. See, you were so engrossed in it. So if there's any questions, Kenny, let me know. But until then, we're going to go to our next segment where everybody, you guys can come in and chime in on life happens. We get letters that come in. And if you have a letter that, anonymously, of course, if you want your girlfriends to, give you some support and give us our little spiel on what's happening in your life, just email me at Mind, Body, and Soul llc.de@gmail.com. It's on the bottom of the screen. I keep forgetting it's on the bottom. I don't have to say it. It's on the bottom of the screen. And, we'll help you out. So here's the Life Happens segment. Are you girls listening? You ready?
Yes, I'm listening.
So, hello. I'm a 25-year-old with 5 children, and none of their fathers help out. I always pick the wrong man and find myself pregnant again. I see my girlfriends in relationships and want to feel love too. I'm talking, she put the quotes around that.
Mm-hmm.
Talking is different now. We talked, but talking is, they do a little more than talking. So I'm talking to this guy now, and I want to do things different this time. I love my children, but I'm tired of being alone. I want my children to have someone they can call dad. Do you think this is hurting my kids? Should I take it slow with this potential love of my life? That's it.
Okay.
So I'll say this. Number one, she has 5 children. How old is she?
25.
She's 25 years old and she has 5 children. So the question I would have that I would pose to her, if she lives locally, has she ever traveled? So oftentimes, if we're not well traveled, we don't know we're missing.
Well, she can't really go nowhere.
No, she can. She can travel around the proximity of Delaware. She can go to Maryland. She can go to Philadelphia. She can go to museums to find self-care and to find time with herself. So oftentimes we try to jump into relationships because we're hurting, but we haven't fixed ourselves. Before you jump into the relationship, and everybody needs to be loved, love yourself. Because you have to make you happy, and nobody else can make you happy, even if you're in this relationship. If she hasn't fixed her past hurts, she's going to take those past hurts into her current relationship.
That's true.
And it still may not work out, and then she may be left with, another scar.
Right. And it's easier said than done, because she's saying here that she sees her girlfriends with this thing that she's seeking and wanting. So that is coming, or she has these rose glasses on, like, they have it and it's working for them. So I gotta have it. I need that. I need it.
Well, go back to see. It says, I see my girlfriend. Yeah. Do you experience your girlfriends? Right. Because we look at Instagram, we look at TikTok, all of it. And guess what? It's a facade. Yeah. A lot of things are facade as to what we see, but what is she experiencing? Yeah. Because in any relationship, whether it's with her children, whether it's with a male, female, it's work.
This talking thing. Talking thing is just, they do more than talk nowadays. Like, it's like, I'm talking to this person. Now she's talking to him. He's also talking and communicating with people. So because there's no labels here, there's no significant, like, I am yours and you're mine. This is like, we're too free with giving of ourselves because we want that. Yeah. And that goes back to love yourself. So go ahead, Ms. Vincent. Okay.
Well, I just want to, if she's listening, thank you for being vulnerable and even writing in, because that took a lot just in itself. And you're absolutely right, ladies. It really does sound like she has to start within. Yeah. I heard something the other day, and it's been so impactful. If we don't change our mindset, we will continue to recycle experiences. Yeah. And so she is recycling these experiences because she hasn't dealt with what is the void within herself. She's looking for something to fill her up. And unfortunately, if we're carrying a lot of trauma from our past, then it's really hard to get filled up. We are just really just kind of putting a Band-Aid over a wound that may need stitches. We got to get to the core of how can we heal. Yeah. And what do we need to heal? And so it sounds like that's where she has to start. If at all, I would suggest that if there's a woman's group that she's comfortable in joining, if she's not open to doing therapy right now, or even maybe trying to start one up on her own so that she can learn how to love herself. Yeah. And then that love that she's feeling for herself is going to extend outward.
Because a lot of times we we are what we experience sometimes.
Like, absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
like what we experience is what we know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll say this about her. She's a single parent of 5 children.
Yeah.
Her.
Absolutely.
Because that's really difficult work. And if she loves herself and she loves her children, God will send her someone to open up her relationship. But like we said, let her heal, let her travel some.
And it sounds like she's becoming more aware because she said, "Do you think this is hurting my kids?" So she's thinking about her decision making, and maybe it's not as good as it could be impactful for her children. So that was good as well.
And her should I take it slow with this potential love of my life?
Yes.
That's 3.
Definitely. And don't be the fear. I think the fear is probably what's overwhelming her of, if I don't rush and do what it is that this person may want me to do, will I lose him?
Yeah.
And sweetheart, let me tell you, you cannot keep a man that doesn't want to be kept. So if in the end he's going to go, he's going to go, but you still have to come back to me. You still have to come back to learning how to love me and learning how to deal with some of those past hurts and wounds that you're carrying.
Yeah. Okay, ladies. I hope that helped you, sweetheart.
I hope so too.
Because we all experience that.
Yes.
We're not sitting here acting like we don't know what it is to be wanted, to be loved, and doing crazy stuff. Things that we.
So no judgment.
We can't.
No judgment.
We did.
No.
There's
none. No.
All I'm saying to you is find yourself, love yourself, and travel a little bit and take it slow.
Yeah.
And time
take it slow.
And therapy is virtual now, so you don't even have to leave. I understand she has 5 kids and may not have a babysitter at different times.
Yeah, it's virtual.
They can come right into your home on a computer, on a phone.
At this point, there are agencies that I take insurance. Your center takes insurance on the bottom of the screen. Hopefully, Kenny will be able to list those agencies, and they're of color. There are practices that are catered towards us. A lot of times we need that culturally, we can relate to one another a little better. So we have that as well. And also, I think this is something that we're going to get into a little later, but our young people are really dealing with things by themselves and can't think that
yes.
So we have the suicide prevention hotline on there. You don't have to do this by yourself. I know sometimes you feel like there's no other way. There's no other answer. This will solve my problem, but it really won't. It won't solve the problem.
Yeah.
So we have those things on there. There is help available for you. There's help. There's people waiting to support you. There are people waiting to give you exactly what you need. Not tell you what to do, but to support you and give you different interventions and give you different.
That's funny. I was thinking like not talk at you, but talk.
Yeah. That's if there's somebody, if there's a therapist that is talking at you or saying what you should do or belittling you, that's not a therapist. That's not our job to do that. Right. So I want you to know that there are people that are waiting to support you and to help you get through this difficult time. So I think that is the end of our show. Did we do okay?
I hope
you
so.
Tell us, did we do okay? Thank you to my cousin for joining me today. I love you too. I love you too. I think thank Miss Johnson, thank Miss Moore, thank Miss Vincent. Great guys, thank you. This was an awesome show, and I hope it helped somebody, gave you a little insight. And I think we're going to do a part 2 because there's a lot of information that Miss Vincent did not cover. And there are some programs within the school that I don't think parents or guardians are aware of. There's like IEPs, there's 504 plans, there's different things that are available, not just for behavioral, but emotional support as well within the school. So I think we're going to do a part 2 with that. So our next live is going to be in May the 24th. Bi-weekly. I can't come to you every week. I know y'all want me to come every week, but I didn't. Bi-weekly. So May the 24th will be the next one. So stay tuned. Hit like and hit share. And if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe. We're doing this for you. I'm stepping out of my comfort zone because I care about you. I want you to do well on this journey. So thank you for tuning in to It's Life, where we will learn how to live, we will inspire, we will have fun, and we will empower you. And we're going to do this journey together, okay? Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good